Hello, everyone. Welcome. Greetings from São Paulo. Welcome to another exclusive webinar for members of the Cambridge Biosite program. Let's just wait a few seconds until everyone connects. Okay. Well, I think we can start. Well, if you don't know me, I'm Sergio Varela. I'm from the marketing department at Cambridge here in Brazil. I'm based in São Paulo, and I'm responsible for the Cambridge Biosite program. And I'm glad to say that you are not alone in this program. We have reached 3,000 members. I'm very, very happy, very glad to tell you that. So before I introduce our guest today, let me give you very quickly a few updates. Well, on October the 15th, which is a Wednesday, we are going to celebrate Teachers' Day with a very special, completely free and online event. We will have a special afternoon with three amazing speakers, Matthew Ellman, Dr. Miranda Hamilton, and Alberto Costa. And there will be prizes for participants. The talks will be very appealing and very relevant for English teachers in general. So this is an open event, okay? Well, we haven't promoted the Teachers' Day 2025 yet. We will do it next week, but because we like you, and as you are members of the Cambridge Biosite program, you have the privilege to know about it before everybody else. So put in your calendar, you can scan the QR code here to register, and from the next week on, we will be promoting the event with all the details more openly, okay? All right. Now, let me talk to you about the next exclusive webinar. It's going to be on October the 17th, and it's called Giving Feedback, which is very important for us teachers. So we hope it's going to be very relevant and useful for you all. And it's going to be with Rafael Koristek, a very experienced Cambridge consultant here in Cambridge. Okay. Now, in case you don't know yet, members of the program can have a virtual bookshop to sell Cambridge material directly to their students, right? So this gives teachers a more professional look, and it prevents the students from buying the wrong material. And the most important, teachers can get a commission over the sales. So now we've recently raised the commission percentages. So now it's up to 25% over print material and up to 18% over digital material, right? So I say up to because you teachers, you determine the price of the material. You will decide how much your students will pay for the material you use with them. So you can give a 25% discount and get no commission at all, or you can give 20% and get 5 to yourself, or 15%, 10%, 5%. You choose how much your student will pay and how much you will earn. So this is very interesting. So more information about the Disal Digital program. You can access the Cambridge Biosite website. There are videos there explaining everything, and you can, if you want, scan the QR code on the right, okay, to know more about it, and to open your Disal Digital virtual bookshop. Okay, and if you have a virtual bookshop at Disal Digital, you will be able to participate in a campaign that can take you to IATEFL next year. So IATEFL 2026 is going to be in April next year in Brighton, UK. And you can go to Brighton and attend one of the most important ELT events in the world for free. Okay, so stay tuned. We'll give more information about it in October. Okay. All right. So now the webinar today. The webinar today is called Lesson Planning, and our guest speaker is Alcione Tavares. Well, Alcione holds a Master's of Arts degree in English Language from Universidade Federal Fluminense in Niterói, Rio de Janeiro. And she taught English for many years and has worked as an academic consultant and teacher trainer for Cambridge since 1990. She's very experienced. She prepared teachers for the TKT, the Teaching Knowledge Test, and gave a course to a group of professionals using the digital module Employability Skills, published by Cambridge University Press and Assessment. We have a special webinar about employability skills with Alcione, and you can have access to it via the Cambridge Biosite website. Okay, so welcome, Alcione. It's a pleasure to have you with us today.
Thank you, Sergio. Hello,
Well, so
everyone. Yeah,
yeah, great to have you here today.
thank
So
you.
if you have any questions, please use the Q&A box for questions to Alcione, and she'll be answering them at the end of the webinar, right? So in
Mhm.
case you want, you'll be able to download a certificate of this webinar at the end. So at the end, we'll provide you with a link. You just need to fill out a very brief form, a feedback form, which is very important for our work, and you have access to the PDF of the certificate. You include your name, save it to your device, and that's it. You have your certificate. Okay. So thank you very much. Over to you, Alcione. Thank you. I'll
Okay,
stop sharing
okay.
now.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Hello, all members of Cambridge by your side. You are 3,000 now. Congratulations, Sergio, for all this huge success for Cambridge by your side. And let's get started by sharing my screen. Just a second. Please let me know if you see my PowerPoint presentation. Everyone? Sergio?
Yes.
Yes? I'm changing slides. Is that okay?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Okay, okay. So thank you for being here this afternoon. And the topic of this workshop, as you know, is lesson planning. And let's take a look at the agenda. We're going to have an overview of lesson planning, then talk about the parts of a lesson plan, tools for formal assessment, example of a lesson plan. We will make a distinction between curriculum, syllabus, and timetable. Then we'll have a summary of everything and references to this workshop. There are four key elements in a lesson. And I believe when you look at this picture that you already imagine who the four key elements are. One of them, of course, are the learners. Then we need the teaching resources. Next, the lesson content. And very important for all of us, the teacher's thinking. So, what is the teacher's thinking? The teacher is the one who gets the other elements, learners, lesson content, teaching resources, put them all together to make sense of a lesson in such a way that all the activities done will engage learners, and at the end of those activities, the teacher will have reached the aim of the lesson. So teachers thinking of the other three elements is what makes the whole difference. That's why for every lesson, it is important that we plan. The more we plan a lesson, the better results we're gonna have. So there are two main parts of a lesson plan. And these main parts will be presented in a very detailed way because there are day-to-day or daily lesson plans and there are detailed lesson plans. We normally use detailed lesson plans when we are doing a teacher training course, a CELTA course, or we are enrolling for a place at a school. Then the school usually asks the teacher to present a detailed lesson plan. And a daily lesson plan is simpler. So what are we going to do? We're going to show you the detailed lesson plan. And then at the end, we just say, okay, for daily basis, we need these elements, not everything that I'm showing you, but mainly these elements that are important for the lesson plan. So let's see in more detail what the introduction and the procedure, the main parts of a lesson plan, involve. The introduction includes the description of the aims, which we need to be very much careful with. Why? Because the aims of a lesson must be targeted, specific, and contextualized. To be clear, in other words, if we teachers want to know what we're going to do in a lesson, the aim must be very much clear. So let's read this aim here. To present and practice the past continuous used to describe background situations in oral personal stories in the context of disastrous holidays. This is the aim. Now, it is targeted. Yes, it is. It says to present and practice the past continuous. So we know we're teaching a grammar point. Very well, okay. But it is also specific because I want to teach it to describe background situations in oral personal stories. Fine. But in what context? Of disastrous holidays. So I know what I'm going to teach. I want it to be specific and I contextualize it. So that makes the aim as clear as possible for teachers to articulate a good lesson. There are three ways or main ways to articulate lesson aims. One of them is from the perspective of the teacher. So this one that we just showed you is from the perspective of the teacher. Here is another example. To present a text and focus on the use of the simple past tense and adverbs of time in the description of a school trip. We have all the three features of a good lesson aim. It is targeted, it is, as I showed you, specific, and it is also contextualized. We're talking about a school trip. Very well. So from the perspective of the teacher. Now, when we do it from the perspective of the learner achievement, we normally start with a sentence like, by the end of the lesson, learners will be able to answer questions about situations in the past after reading a text about a school trip. And we can also articulate a lesson aim from the perspective of learner activity. Learners will have read a text about a school trip and answered questions using the simple past tense based on the text. Now, in the introduction of a lesson plan, then we have the aims, we have the overview of a learner group and their needs, we have the aims of the lesson, we have the analysis of the language and/or language skills, a timetable fit, assumptions of what learners already know, anticipation of problems and solutions to deal with them, a personal professional development aim and the teacher wants to focus on. And as I said, this is a quite complete and detailed lesson plan. For our everyday lives, we may not use all of them, but we certainly already know our learners, but we need to think of the lesson aims, right? The other elements of this introduction with all these aspects, we will find, as I said, when you write detailed lesson plans. And for the procedure, which is the second part, we mentioned two main parts of a lesson plan, the introduction and the procedure. The procedure involves the stages of the lesson, in other words, everything that will happen in the lesson, and the timing. So how long will each stage of the lesson last, right? Now, when we have the stages, then we think of the timing of the stage, a description of what the teacher and the learners will do, the aims of the stage, aids and materials used for every stage, the interaction patterns. And of course, at the end of the lesson, we need to assess what happened in a lesson, if the aim was achieved or not. So, assessment will involve basically two main types: formal assessment, like tests and examinations, and informal assessment. Normally, we assess learners informally while we're teaching. As we look at learners' outcomes in the lesson, we observe if they are achieving the aims of the lesson or not. And we can also do informal assessment by correcting students' homework. Types of formal assessment. We may have proficiency tests to assess overall language ability, achievement tests to assess learning at the end of a course, progress tests to assess learning at the end of part of a course, a diagnostic test to know how much English a learner knows at the beginning of a course, or a placement test when we have learners for different levels of courses and we want to place the learner in the right level. The purpose of informal assessment, normally two main purposes: feedback for teachers, that means to find out how successful our teaching has been, or feedback for learners about what they can do and what they still need to work on. So let's consider that you just finished correcting a specific homework task, and then you see that most of your students had problems with that task. So you know you can give them feedback of what they need to do to improve that topic that they showed that they had difficulty. And the marking for formal assessment, students receive grades. And informal assessment, teacher and all learners keep records of progress when you find it important. Now, tools for formal assessment. We gave you a number of different formal assessment types: proficiency test, progress test, diagnostic test, placement test. These are types of formal assessment. Now, what tools do we have for formal assessment? One tool that is available in most of Cambridge University present assessment course books is called a test generator. Test Generator is a tool that automates the process of creating tests, quizzes, or question papers. They can be used to generate tests from question banks with options for different question types. So here's an example of a test generator for a series called Global Changer. Notice that this test generator offers placement test, unit tests, progress tests, mid-year test, end-of-year test. This is another model of a test generator for kids, where you have unit tests, review tests, end-of-year tests. And notice that you can have a ready-made test, just choose a unit, choose a type of test, the different levels, or you can select questions. So basically, that's how a test generator works. But you can also have on Cambridge One a testing program. This is an example of a complete testing program of Interchange 5th edition for young adult learners, where you have placement tests, oral quizzes for every unit, written quizzes for every unit, midterm and final tests, and everything can be downloaded. So you have test generator, but you also have PDF and Word files, text files that you can download from Cambridge One, Teachers Resource Bank from Cambridge One if you want to. This is an example of Evolve placement test in print version. So as I said, all the formal assessment involves different test types, and it's possible to find tests that are already prepared for us, or we can create our own tests if we want to. An example of a lesson plan. The aim of this lesson plan is to extend a range of vocabulary for describing family members and to practice oral fluency. Well, remember that we said that a lesson plan has two main parts if it is a detailed lesson plan, the introduction and the procedure. So, looking at the introduction of this lesson plan, one element of the introduction is the level and number of learners and class profile. So, we're talking about 24 students at B1 level. What about timetable fit? Students have already worked on simple descriptions of people. What is the main aim of this lesson? To extend a range of vocabulary for describing family members and to practice oral fluency. What about the subsidiary aim? Students use appropriate language for basic physical descriptions. What assumptions do we need to have about those 24 students? Students can use present simple and past simple to describe habits and past events. Can we anticipate problems? Yeah. Students may be unwilling to repeat the same task in the last stage of the lesson. So, a possible solution suggests that students report description from their original partner rather than repeating their own description. So, main part, introduction. The second important part of a lesson plan, procedure. So the procedure then will be a description of stages. The first one is students talk about their families. Second one is students select appropriate adjectives to complete description of family members in transcripts of short conversations. They listen to the conversations and check answers. The third stage of this lesson, students repeat family description task. And the last stage of this procedure of this lesson is the students watch a video about families in the world. The first stage takes 5 minutes, is a warmer. The second stage, 15 minutes. The third stage, 15 minutes. The last stage, 10 minutes. Then you have the aids and materials for each stage. The first one, family photographs brought by students. The second one, third and fourth. And the interaction pattern, the first stage, pair work. Second one, individual and pair work, individual work and pair work. The third, pair work with new partners. And then finally, the last 10 minutes of the lesson, students will do individual work. So this is a complete or detailed lesson plan, the procedure of a detailed lesson plan. In terms of assessment, what will the teacher do in this lesson? The learner's outcome in the second pair work activity, when students will describe family members using new vocabulary. The second pair work activity, in fact, is the third stage of the lesson. Students repeat family description task. So it is through this activity, by observing learners' outcome, that the teacher will do an informal assessment to check and see if the aim of the lesson was achieved. It is important for us teachers to distinguish what curriculum, syllabus, and timetable are, and where the lesson plan fits in those three elements. So when we talk about curriculum, it means that it is normally something that the school, especially you are private teachers, but I believe some of you might have had or will have experience in teaching in schools as well, right? So normally schools tell teachers what they understand as the broad curriculum of the school, the planning to deliver a learning program, content, delivery, assessment. This is normally established by the school. How many types of formal assessment? How often formal assessment will be given? What about the content? Will the content, for example, in our Brazilian schools, only take into consideration the course book syllabus or BNCC as well? is there a correlation between BNCC and the syllabus of the course book? Yes or no? How can it be done? So curriculum is broad. Then the syllabus is all the content delivered in a classroom, which normally corresponds to the course book syllabus. The timetable is the planning of a series of lessons. This timetable can be around a theme or topic or a period of time. You can have a timetable in a weekly basis, in a monthly basis, depending on how you want to create your timetable. It is less detailed than a lesson plan, and it is an overview and direction of parts of a syllabus. And the lesson plan is something that we do in a daily, it is a daily plan. We have aims for every lesson. So we're talking about daily lesson plans, right? So I'm showing you here an example of when you create curriculum at regular schools in Brazil, that a base nacional comum curriculares is also considered by the school director. Now, here we have examples of correlations from the NCC in some of our school course books. And talking about syllabus, all content delivered in the classroom, and the syllabus created by the teacher or syllabus from course books. So we teachers may design the syllabus we want to cover with a given course for specific learner. We may have a learner who, for example, wants to study specific ESP content, right? A specific topics. And then no course book covers everything that the learner needs. And then we need to design something else. So we need to design a syllabus for that specific learner. So syllabus can be either created by us teachers, or they can be the syllabus from course books. Here are examples of syllabus from course books for very young learners, for teenage learners, and of course, you are very much familiar with syllabus for young adult and adult learners, although I imagine private teachers teaching any level, one any age range, not only adult learners, right? One thing that I want to highlight from the different syllabi we have here is the fact that in this first syllabus for very young learners, you have specific strands like vocabulary, language, cross-curricular, well-being, and school readiness. So we're talking about 3, 4, 5-year-old learners. Then when they are a little older, we look at the syllabus and we find different strands. Of course, you have the topics of the units, my school, favorite toys, but then you have key vocabulary, key language, sounds and spelling. Then you look at the syllabus of a teenage course book. In this course book, you have more strands. You have the linguistic content, the unit topic, skills, and a little bit of something else. Like, for example, vocabulary, grammar, reading, listening, speaking, and pronunciation. So the skills, writing, and critical thinking. So we're giving these students more than just language when we include critical thinking, life skills, right? Now, what about the timetable? As we mentioned before, it means planning a series of lessons around a period of time. So here's an example of timetables that we give our customers. You're looking at a timetable for Evolve Level 1, where you have 2 lessons a week. If you have 2 lessons a week, it means 40 lessons in the first semester normally, and 38 lessons in the second semester. We are considering here that the school year will be of about 10 months, not 12 months, of course. And in this case, how is the distribution of content, or how many lessons can I imagine and what is the content of every lesson throughout the semester and the year. That's why it's called an annual plan. This is an example of a possible a timetable. Here's another one with 5 lessons a week. In this case, in the first semester, we're talking about 100 lessons. In the second semester, 95 lessons. And in this case, for the series called Think, how many lessons, what is the content that we suggest for every unit in this distribution of 5 lessons a week? So this is something that we normally offer our customers just to help them see how a timetable would look like depending on the number of teaching hours that they have or they're offering their students. So to sum it up, the key components of a lesson plan are the learners, the lesson content, the teaching resources, and of course, the teacher's thinking. The main parts of a lesson plan are introduction and procedure, which include aims, procedures, in other words, stages of the lesson, timing, how long each stage will last, and the assessment. What do we assess? We assess the aim or aims of that lesson. As references, we'd like to suggest you the Teaching Knowledge Test course, the TKT course for modules 1, 2, and 3, where you find lots of units involving lesson planning. And you also find an online course in Cambridge 1, and this online course is called Lesson Planning Second Edition. It lasts 2 hours. It is an interactive online course. How do you find online courses? First, if you haven't done it yet, you can sign up on our digital learning platform called Cambridge One. This is the address, cambridgeone.org. Once you are signed up, you log in and you will find your name and 3 tabs, My Classes, My Library, My Training. When you look at the tab My Training, you will find development courses. Those courses may last 2 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours. It depends on the course. And how do you activate those online courses? Well, you need to buy the activation code. Where do you buy the activation code? Well, for this workshop, I used content from Lesson Planning Second Edition, this one here, Lesson Planning Second Edition, and you can buy the activation code by going to Disal website. Then it's disal.com.br. You just type the name of the course you want. You start by typing online teacher development. Then the next will come the name of the course. Online teacher development, teaching English online, teaching teenage learners, lesson planning second edition. So to find the course that you want in this website, you need to start by typing online teacher development, and then you have the name of the course. In the case of this one that I used to take ideas for this workshop, it costs 94 reais, the price for the activation code. Then you go to Cambridge One, open the course that you bought the activation code for, type the activation code that you will receive through your email address, and then you start taking the course online. They are 100% online course. At the end of those courses, you can download a certificate. Now, I will stop and open for questions, okay?
Alcione, just a note from the from me about the online teacher development courses. All members of the Cambridge Biosite program, they have a special discount to buy those online courses. These courses, they already have a very nice, very appealing price. The one you showed is called, it costs 94 reais, but members of the program have 13%, they have a 13% discount to buy those, all the online teacher development courses. The code, the discount code is on the Cambridge Biosite website. On the homepage, there are there's a part there with discounts not only for the online teacher development courses, but also for teacher development books as well. Okay. All right. So let's see whether we have any questions.
We
No
have
questions at the
comments,
moment.
Sergio.
Yeah.
We have very interesting comments. Like, for
Okay.
example, Ana Patricia says that she really likes using Cambridge One,
That's
which
great.
I agree with you, Ana Patricia. I really like using Cambridge One as well. It is excellent. Sergio, Rubens Viegas would like you to share the link of Cambridge Biosite members area. Okay.
Okay.
Have you seen it?
Um,
Alan says that he uses Cambridge One all day long. Very good. Rosemary, Cambridge One is excellent. Great to know that. Um, very nice. And then test generator as a relevant tool. Interesting. So, are there any comments? Anything you'd like to comment about lesson planning specifically? I'm very glad to see how many people say that you are using Cambridge One. Somebody says I use Cambridge One. Alan says all day long. Excellent. I imagine many of you working online, right? Philippe, thank you for your comment. Thank you very much. I guess, Sergio, nobody has any questions.
yeah.
How does it help in the lesson planning? What exactly? Sergio, I don't know if you can see me, but you've
Mhm.
so frozen for a while.
Sorry, I was just finding the password for the website. I'm going to
Uh-huh.
paste it in the chat box. I can't do that
Uh-huh.
because it's not being recorded.
Mm-hmm.
So no problem if I put it in the web chat. Well,
Mm-hmm.
Alcione, I think first of all, thanks a lot. I think lesson planning is really key for teachers, especially for those who still don't have a lot of experience. But
Mm-hmm.
even for those who are very experienced, who are badass teachers and have a lot of experience, we can always learn something and brush up our skills when we reflect about what we know and about lesson planning. So thank you very
Mm-hmm.
much. These,
We have questions
yeah,
here. Yeah,
sure.
I guess somebody wrote something here. How important do you think is to finish a
Oh,
whole lesson when following a lesson plan? Would it be incorrect to stop a lesson, continue the same lesson in the next lesson? Okay, that's an excellent question, Felipe. When we plan lesson, we need to think of the balance of the lesson. At the same time, we need to think of the possibility that, let's imagine, especially if you're teaching, you probably teach teenagers as well, and then for some reason, they get involved in a topic. So you planned a number of stages. All of a sudden, your students love something and they get involved in doing it. And they want to answer questions or they want to go in a discussion. I would never interrupt them. Let them do it. We want students to talk. So if they get involved, no problem whatsoever if you just leave some of the content to finish the following lesson. One of the problems with timetables is that if the timetable is established by a school, for example, then you don't have so much flexibility. You have to follow it. In other words, if you need to finish a unit in a number of lessons, you have to, because that's the timetable. But if you are a private teacher, it's your decision. So you can save time from some content of the coursework you're working with to use the content of that your students like the most, or a lesson that was very successful, then you split it. So I see no problem whatsoever. I normally tell teachers the following: you have a teacher's book and you have instructions in the teacher's book. What do we teachers do? We study the teacher's book and we adapt. What do we adapt it for? We adapt for the learners we have, of course, right? So many instructions that we read there are fine, but some others are not. They're not suitable for the learners we have. So we plan lessons for the learners. They are the most important element from the four key elements that we have in the classroom. The learners are the ones we are working for, right?
Alcione, we do have some questions in the question and answer box. I'll read
Uh-huh.
them for you, okay?
Okay.
So, question from Felipe Costa. What strategies make lesson planning more effective for adults aiming to improve workplace communication in English?
Mm-hmm. Well, are you talking about one-to-one teaching or you have more than one student? Are you talking about online lessons or you're talking about face-to-face lessons? That would make a difference. If it is online and if it is one-to-one, make sure you listen more than you speak. That would be the best strategy, right? We teachers speak too much, too much. And we tend to give our opinions, especially when you open up a topic for discussion. If you're opening the topic for discussion, you have more than one student in class. So you have at least two students to interact with one another. Why am my opinion important? It's not at all. We want them to speak. We want them to say what they want, what they think, and then sometimes we interrupt just to say what we think, but we are already fluent in English. So the best strategy whatsoever, in my opinion, is speak less, listen to your students more. Okay.
Okay, we have a question from Cristiana Faria. I find hard to, to define a timetable for my private students because we usually spend a great amount of time in the speaking activities. I also take time to work on their specific demands, such as writing a CV, learning language for a trip abroad, etc. So it's hard to establish a timetable, and it takes ages to move throughout Empower books. What can I do?
Do what you're doing. That's my opinion, because you're focusing on the learner's needs. If you are focusing on the learner's needs and you are the one who establishes the rhythm of your course, as long as your students agree with you. Let's imagine you have an Empower course book supposed to be given in one school period, or let's say in 100 hours. Instead of spending 100 hours, you're spending 150 hours. But it's okay for your learner that your student agrees with that. If the student agrees, don't worry. Don't worry, because what you're doing is focusing on the learner's needs. So I wouldn't worry about timetables at all.
Okay, we have a question from Mateus Dias Bastos. I design lessons for a very specific group of people, adults who want to get a promotion at their jobs or young adults studying at universities. How can I design a syllabus suitable for students from this area? They don't feel represented by most standard course books.
Oh, that's a very interesting question. If I were able to give you an answer in a number of minutes for that question, I would be, it is not possible. It's not, how can you design a syllabus for that specific group of learners? It's not possible to answer in a situation like this. What you probably do, and I believe you do, and you are successful, otherwise you wouldn't have those learners with you, is find what they want, do research for what they want, and create a syllabus based on that, right? I understand when you say regular course books do not fit what they want. What normally we do when students have very specific aims is that, at least in my mind, I think it has worked with me in my 11 or more years of teaching privately. You give them the core content, and the core content is given by the syllabus of a course book. After all, they need to learn specific things, of course, but they also need to learn English as a whole. So you give them a general course and you supply with whatever they need, which is specific for their needs, right? But telling you how you can create a syllabus here in this situation in answering quickly, I don't think it's possible.
Okay, we have a question from teacher Victor. What do you do when you can't finish the timetable on time?
What do you do? Um, well, it depends on the context. If it is your private timetable, and you're happy with it in the sense that, okay, I didn't finish on time, but I will talk to my student about this, and the student will understand why I had this timetable. Sometimes we teachers share timetables with our students so that the student feels comfortable about how the content is going to be covered. And sometimes we don't share. It depends on the aims that we have with that specific learner or group of learners. But if it is a timetable established by a private language school or or a regular school, colégio, escola, or a regular school, what can you do? You will have to make decisions. What is it that I need to shorten in the course to make sure that I fit the timetable? Because private language schools and regular schools will say, okay, this time, students will be assessed in this content. You need to cover this syllabus. So the timetable is something that needs to be covered. And what can you do if you don't? You have to make decisions as you look through the timetable, or what you can shorten in terms of content to fit the time you have.
Okay, there's a question. It's anonymous attendee saying, I would like to start using Cambridge books. How can I start? Where can I buy them? I also teach online. Well, we have a
Mhm.
number of books. We have the website, the Cambridge website, which is www.cambridge.org, and you can find lots of inf pieces of information about all the books we have in different segments. And you can also have your account at Cambridge One. It's cambridgeone.org. You can open a teacher account there, and you can check what our titles have in terms of teacher resources. There are a number of sources where you can find information about it. Our website is one of them. We have our catalog as well, online catalog. And you can buy, teachers usually don't need to buy the books, but we have lots of different distributors around Brazil. Uh,
Mhm.
it's impossible to say one. Okay, but a Google search will answer that question for you. Okay. All right. We have a comment here from Ana Patricia Bueno. She says, so plane can be flexible, depends on the topic. Student, is it possible to change plans in the middle of the class?
Absolutely, absolutely. You can change plans in the middle of a class, or this is the flexibility that we teachers need to offer when need to be open to do when we're teaching. As I gave a quick example, you may have an activity that in one group is okay, and in another group is a major success, and everybody gets involved. All students love it. If you interrupt it's a pity. Go ahead. Let them do it. If they're involved, let them do it. In that case, it means that you made a change. Another change that we teachers make very often in our lesson plan, when something goes wrong, we plan something and then students don't get engaged at all. They don't want to do it. They refuse to do it. So we need to get ready for possibilities of changing. But the aim of the lesson, this is something important when we talk about lesson planning. We change the stage. In other words, we change the activity, but we have the aim in our minds, right? So that we don't lose the aim of the lesson, but we change whatever we were planning to do. We have flexibility.
Okay, we have a question from Daniel Martins Aragão. When it comes to regular school, that use a course book, how to balance book material, which most of the time has a lot of pages and exercises, and developing communication skills and even having to prepare them for formal assessment.
Mm-hmm.
How to balance that?
Yeah, one way of balancing, I guess, it would be certainly using more interaction patterns in class. What do I mean by that? We need if you're giving them, for example, the regular school wants you to give them oral tests, or they are preparing for Cambridge exams where you have the speaking paper, right? And then you have the book content, the syllabus that you have to cover. But at the same time, you have other aims in mind, like, for example, a Cambridge exam. And they need to get ready for that. And you didn't specify how many students in class. You didn't say if it is a group of 20 students or 40 students. You didn't mention if it is offering lessons every day or lessons twice a week. So one major difference is the amount of time that I have to teach in a regular school, first of all. Second is having the amount of the syllabus that I have to cover and any other aim that I have in mind. I mentioned Cambridge exams, for example. Many schools prepare for Cambridge exams. And then in that case, what we can do is, and students need to practice speaking, is change the interactive pattern among students, more group work, paired work, class activities where you involve. And don't forget, there is something quite nice that we can do with students if we want them to practice something in a more fun way, which is drilling, but contextualizing drilling in game-like activities. You can drill in game-like activities depending on the age of the learners. It can be fun-like activities, it can be games, but you are drilling. In fact, you're helping your students to use vocabulary items, productive vocabulary items, or grammar points by means of activities that they don't feel that they're drilling, and they are doing drills, right? So that can help. And if you have too much material and not enough time to cover everything, you need to talk to your school coordinator, school principal, and say, okay, the amount of hours that I have is not possible to cover everything that I have here. What is it that you allow me to leave out, right?
Okay, some comments about samples, free samples, probably from about our material. I just would like to say that usually teachers don't need to buy the teacher's book anymore. So if you have a teacher account on Cambridge One, you have access to the teacher's resources and you have access to the teacher's edition of that material. You can check the PDFs, you can check the audio, the class audio, tests, etc. So you don't need to buy the book, okay? Because some people are saying, "Oh, I tried sample free samples and it didn't work, etc." So you don't need to buy, you don't need to use, or you don't need to work with samples. Samples are just meant for you to know more about the material. When you start using the
Mhm.
material, you have access to the teacher's resources and the entire book. Okay. So let me just check whether we have any other questions. Okay, I don't think so. And it's almost time to finish. Well, it's always good to say that this webinar is being recorded. It will be available soon via the Cambridge Biosite website. There will be a link there to a not listed list of webinars on YouTube. So you will be able to watch this not only this webinar but all the webinars we organize for the program are recorded, so you can watch them whenever you want. Okay, and we have the link that Maria Julia is going to include in the chat box, so people can fill out the form, the feedback form, and get their certificate for this webinar. Okay, which is sorry, which is right there. Well, thank you very much. Thank you all for being with us in this Friday afternoon. Thanks a lot, Alcione. That was a
My
great
pleasure.
workshop. Thank you very much for your time. And stay tuned, guys, for the events in October. Okay? Cambridge Teachers Day and the next webinar. Thank you very, very much. Bye-bye. Have a good weekend. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.